Hello and welcome to another Fabula Ultima class feature. This is the Symbolist, a guide by Fabula Points, me! So jumping straight in as we normally do, the Symbolist is like your kind of artsy kind of class. It's your calligrapher, painter or rune maker, it says. We'll see why, because the symbols work like runes. But free benefits, you permanently increase your maximum inventory points by 2, which is always good. Like, lots of people can use inventory points, and especially you need them because the symbols you use them. But I'm actually going to skip over the skills to get to symbolism to explain that first, because the rest kind of interact with your symbols and we need to understand how that works before we can kind of go ahead. So you can have up to 5 points in this, so each time you acquire the skill you learn 2 symbols, which is good, because like a lot of the spellcasting ones you get like 1 point in it and you only learn 1. But yeah, so you may have up to skill level plus 1 symbols active at the same time. So if you invest 5, you can have up to 6. If you create more while at your limit, you must first choose and destroy some of your previous symbols. So you don't have to pick like the one you put on first, for example. You may perform the inventory action and spend 2 inventory points to create a symbol you have learned and choose one option. Apply that symbol to yourself, or apply that symbol to an ally you can see, or perform a free attack with a weapon you have equipped. This attack deals no damage, but you apply a copy of the chosen symbol to each enemy hit by the attack. Each copy counts as a separate symbol towards your limit. Cool. So yeah, I like it. So apply the symbol to yourself, ally. Yeah, so you have to hit an enemy to be able to apply it to an enemy, so you've got the potential to miss, but this isn't tied to any stats. It's just going to be dependent on what weapon you've got, so you can make it so you've got a better chance to hit if you really want to be applying symbols to enemies. But symbols, they've got special rules. So a creature may only bear 1 symbol at a time. If they get a new symbol, the other one's destroyed. They have unlimited durations until destroyed. They get destroyed if the symbolist dies. If the creature bearing a symbol dies, the symbol is also destroyed. However, if the creature is an NPC that simply changes its form and statistics when reduced to 0 hit points, this does not remove the symbol. So the symbol's narratively tied to the character. So if you promote, like say, use an ultimate point on a bad guy to promote him, that the symbol would stay on him. A villain may, during a game master scene, spend 1 ultimate point to destroy any number of symbols borne by themselves and by any of their allies that are present during the scene. So not your own. It is the only possible way to remove a symbol against the will of the symbolist who created it, save for use of an opportunity appropriate to the scene. Is it born by themselves? I'm sure born by themselves. Let me quickly... It might be a translating thing. So the phrase has to be no born. Let's do this better. Born by himself. Okay, I'm not the best at English. I learned Welsh. Okay. A villain may during a game spend 1. This is the only way possible to create it. Okay, so because this says this is a way to remove a symbol against the will of the symbolist who created it, this to me means that it applies to symbols that they don't cast and they're put on themselves by someone else. Even though born by themselves to me sounds like it should be that they're casting. But it clearly says this is the only possible way to remove a symbol against the will of the symbolist who created it. So it's gotta work. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Symbolist may destroy any number of their symbols at any time, no action required. So that's handy. If a symbol requires you to make a choice when it is created, that choice applies to all copies of the symbol created with that action. So if the Symbolist applies 2 symbols of weakness through the Symbolism skill, combining it with an attack with the multi-2 property, then that'll do both. The creatures who receive the symbols will suffer extra damage from fire. If shortly afterwards the Symbolist applies a symbol of weakness on a 3rd creature, the 2 previous creatures will still receive extra damage from fire, not bolt. Cool, and remember that the maximum number of symbols you move active is based on your level. Yeah, that's fine. Cool, so that's how symbols kind of work, but we need to discuss what they do. So the symbol of binding, the current attribute dice size of the creature bearing a symbol can never be higher than the creature's corresponding base attributes. So if you've got like a boss that likes to power up, for example, this is a way to stop him. Symbol of creation means when the creature bearing a symbol needs to spend inventory points during a conflict, they may instead destroy this symbol and spend no inventory points. But the thing with this, if I go back a page, it costs 2 inventory points to create this symbol. So this is only, well, I suppose you could like precast it, go to a shop, refresh your inventory points, and get basically a free casting if you wanted. But it's only during a conflict scene, so you can't like use this on a tent or something like that. So yeah, you can use this, but it's maybe not the best. Symbol of despair. When the creature bearing the symbol recovers hit points and or mind points during conflicts, instead they only recover half the amount of hit points and mind points respectively. So this is great to hit onto a boss, but just remember they can use a Ultima point to get rid of the symbol, but also that means that you get more experience if they do. So cool. Symbol of destiny. After the creature bearing the symbol makes a check, if you are able to see them, you may spend 1 Fabula point to force that creature to reroll both dice. You may only do so once per check, and if the result was not a critical success or fumble. So this is a kind of thing where you could always like rack up a bunch of Fabula points before going into a boss, apply this on them, and just repeatedly make them miss for a while. Like, it sounds cool. Symbol of elements. When you create this symbol, choose a damage type: airbolt, darkfire, earth, ice, light, or poison. When the creature bearing the symbol deals damage to 1 or more creatures, if you can see the creature bearing the symbol, you may spend an amount of mind points equal to 1/3 of the total damage being inflicted on those creatures. If you do, all damage this way changes to the damage type and created the symbol. So this is a way to spend mind points which you haven't had yet, to be able to change the damage type of something. So like, say if you as a character were picked up like armor that was, say, like strong against fire but weak to ice, say, and someone was going to hit you with an ice attack, if they had a symbol of elements on them, then you could spend magic points to swap it from something you're vulnerable to something you resist. I'm sure there are ways like that you can make this powerful, but that's kind of how that works. Symbol of enmity. As long as the creature bearing this symbol is in crisis, any of the creature's enemies who are able to see them must include them among the targets of their attacks and offensive spells if possible. So I've used this with my aggro sponge build. This I prefer to the Fury's kind of way of getting people to aggro, because the Fury, you've got to apply it to every enemy all the time, and this time you just need to be in crisis, and there are ways you can get yourself into crisis. So I really like Symbol of Enmity. There's only 2 pages left. Flux. When you create this symbol, choose the status effect: dazed, shaken, slow, or weak. Then choose one option. Either the creature bearing the symbol gains immunity to the chosen status effect, or they lose immunity and cannot gain it. So if you're against like a boss or something who's immune to dazed and you really want to daze them, you've got that option. Or if there's a boss who likes to daze, you can put this on everyone, and then they can't. Symbol of Forbiddance. When you create this symbol, choose an action type: attack, guard, objective, spell, or skill. When the creature bearing the symbol performs that action, they lose 5 hit points and 5 mind points. Both amounts increase to 10 if you're level 20 or 20 if you're level 40. This is amazing. So this is like any enemy will constantly be losing HP and mind points before performing their action. So they'll lose the points, they might then not be able to afford it, Again, this is one I would spam on bosses, and if they try and like get rid of it, I would just put it back on, like next to constantly. Like, this is amazing. Definitely one I'd pick, and pick early. Symbol of Growth. Spells with a target of up to 3 creatures cast by the creature bearing the symbol have a target of up to 4 creatures instead. Creature still needs to spend the appropriate mind points. So if you look at like lots of spells, like for like the Elementalist, say it says you can target up to 3. If you're fighting 4, that's not very good. So you could put this on someone and like forget about it. So yeah, I really like it. It's one that you can like have in your back pocket to just buff your allies and then just forget about. Symbol of Metamorphosis. This was my second ever custom build. Use this. Was when you create the symbol, choose a species: beast, construct, demon, elemental, monster, plant, or undead. The creature bearing the symbol is treated as being belonging to the species for the sake of skills and effects instead of the normal species. Symbol cannot be applied to player characters. So you can take this and you can apply it to, say, like a human mage or something like that. And if you're a chimerist, you can call the human mage like a beast or a plant or whatever your chimerist has access to copy, and then you can copy their spells. But just bear in mind, if you change them to a beast, it counts as a beast spell for any of these skills that will synergize with that, so it doesn't count as like a human spell. Symbol of Prosperity. When the creature bearing the symbol spends 1 Fabula point to invoke a trait or bond, they also receive 100 Zenith. So this is a way to earn money, but it obviously depends how often you would invoke a trait or bond. So if someone does it a lot, it might be a quick way of saying, hey, here's some free money. Symbol of Protection. When you create the symbol, choose a damage type. The creature bearing the symbol gains resistance to the chosen damage type. That's quite nice. You can take this and then you can spend a while and apply it to your allies, so that, say if you're going into like the volcano or something, you know, you'll apply this to fire for everyone and you've got like a nice defensive option. Symbol of Rebellion. If a villain is present on the scene, any opposed checks made by the creature bearing the symbol trigger critical success when both dice show the same number. Yeah, like, I like it. It's not a tax, it's an opposed check. But, you know, it's not the strongest, but it works. Symbol of Rebirth. If the creature bearing the symbol is about to be just 0 hit points, they may destroy this symbol. If they do, they are instead reduced to exactly 1 hit point. So this is your saving you from death. Always handy. Symbol of Revenge. When a creature in crisis hits the creature bearing the symbol with an attack or offensive spell, the creature in crisis recovers 5 hit points and 5 mind points. So it's the opposite of Forbiddance, except it doesn't scale, which is annoying. That would be nice. Symbol of Sacrifice. When the creature bearing the symbol suffers damage, if you are able to see them, you may destroy the symbol. If you do, you suffer the same amount of damage instead of that creature. So this is your kind of tanking hits from someone else. Like, say for example, if you have an NPC that you need to guard and they're a bit squishy, you can put this on them, and then if they just happen to get hit, you can destroy the symbol and then you take the damage instead. Symbol of Sorcery. The total mind point cost for spells that target the creature bearing the symbol is reduced by 5 to a minimum of 5. If the spell targets multiple creatures bearing the symbol, the effect will be cumulative. So this is admittedly like a bit of a stretch, but if you had, say, a spell that was 5 per target, and there were 3 targets, and you managed to put this symbol on all 3 of the enemies, like if you had like a multi-2 attack, or multi-3 even, to get it on everyone, then it would be yeah, it would be 10 per target, which makes 30, but then it's reduced by 5, so it would be 15 in total. Yeah, so it's just cheaper spells. Symbol of Truth. Checks performed to examine or locate the creature bearing this symbol, as well as accuracy checks and magic checks for attacks and offensive spells that include the creature bearing the symbol among the targets, gain a +2 bonus. If an attack or spell targets multiple creatures bearing the symbol, the effect will be cumulative. So if you need to track someone, or there's someone with like a lot of armor, you need to hit them better, Symbol of Truth will help. And the last one, Symbol of Weakness. When you create the symbol, choose a damage type. The creature bearing the symbol suffers 5 extra damage from sources dealing damage of the chosen type. So it's a little bit of extra damage. So that's a lot. And they deal a lot of different things. But we need to see what skills they kind of work with before we can kind of talk about them better. So magic symbols is the first one. If an ally bears one of your symbols, that ally may perform a spell action and destroy that symbol to cast a single spell among those you know, as long as it has a total mind point cost equal to lower than skill level times 10, so up to 30. The ally may still pay the cost. So this, I guess, if you have like, say, like a weapon master who doesn't have spells, and like, you know, you need to, I don't know, hit 4 different things with a fire spell or something. Like, hopefully your GM wouldn't do that to you if you didn't have spells, but this is a way to gift like the ability for spells. The next one, Mirage. You gain the ability to perform rituals of the ritualism discipline. Additionally, you may use ritualism to create sight-based illusions. So this one I've used, but I don't like. I personally would have let people use sight-based illusions from ritualism anyway, like if they were like simple kind of ones. So I don't like that this is a skill, and most casters, I know he's not a caster, but he's kind of magical, get the ability to perform ritualism rituals just as a part of their class. So this seems like an expensive way to be able to do this. Especially if you're going Symbolist, you're probably going to have another casting class who's probably going to gift you access to this, so it might not be worth it. Personal touch, you can get up to 5 skill levels in this. When a creature you can see is bearing one of your symbols suffers damage or recovers hit points and or mind points, you may have that creature suffer skill level extra damage or recover skill level extra mind points. So you can synergize this with some of the other ones we talked about, right? So it just suffers damage or recovers hit points, so they don't even have to be hit with an attack. So for example, Forbiddance, you can choose Forbiddance for attack, and if they attack they'll lose like 5, 10 or 20 health, but because they've lost health, then this lets them lose extra health again. So you can use this to synergize with yourself, which is good. And then Symbolic Connection, you always know the exact direction in which to find any creature bearing one of your symbols, as long as that creature is within 2 travel days of your position. So this kind of works with, but slightly negates the Symbol of Truth, because the checks performed to examine or locate the creature get a +2, and then this lets you know the exact direction in which to find them. Like, obviously knowing the direction and knowing where they are different, like, you know if they're north, northeast or wherever. So it's not perfect, and you can kind of use this to be like a tracker. Say if you want to build like some kind of hunter where you could have like the Symbolist and the Chimerist, like I mentioned before, where you can copy beast spells but also hunt them down. Like you can like, say if you fight a beast and he doesn't cast a spell you want, for example, you could then do the Symbol of Truth, and then you can track them easier with Symbolic Connection, and then you can find them at a later date to try and get the spell you want, for example. Like, that's the thing you can do. But yeah, so apart from Mirage, I really like the Symbolist. It's an interesting class, because obviously it uses inventory points to apply the symbols, but there's so many different ways you can go about it. So like, I really love it. But it's not just the skills we need to talk about, it's also the heroic skills. So there's 3. So the first one, Arcane Mark, also works if you have a sharpshooter or weapon master, so we've covered this twice before. But when you hit one or more creatures with an attack using a weapon that belongs to the arcane category, which is your staves and tomes, the attack deals 5 extra damage and may choose one of those creatures. If the next offensive spell you cast during the scene only targets the chosen creature, its magic check will trigger a critical success if both dice show the same number. So this, if you're just a Symbolist, is beyond useless, because it's offensive spells and your symbols aren't spells. So if you were a Symbolist and you're going for a spellcasting class, like, then you have a chance of getting this to work, but like it's not worth it really. There are other things we can get instead, so I wouldn't personally do Arcane Mark. But the next one is Clean Slate. You may use an action and spend up to 30 mind points to choose one creature you can see for every 5 mind points spent this way. So if you're only targeting one creature, it's only 5. Each creature chosen from this way recovers from all status effects and is no longer affected by any spells with a duration of scene that were affecting them. This is massive. All status effects, like, for 5 MP per target. Like, this is amazing. Like, best thing, it doesn't say it has to be an ally. So say for example, like, not the status effects, but the spells with duration of scene, if there's like a spell casting like boss who powers up, you can spend 5 MP and you can disable that power up, because the spells with duration of scene won't affect them anymore. Like, for 5 MP per target, like, that's massive, absolutely massive. Like, this is probably the one I would pick basically every time, being honest. But there is one more we need to talk about, which is Ritual Seals. Ritual Seals. So when you perform a ritual outside of a conflict scene, if the ritual has a total cost equal to or lower than 60 mind points, you may stop the process immediately before the magic check and store the ritual's effect inside a ritual seal placed on a surface you can touch. If you do name a condition, this can be anything from when I enter crisis, as soon as I snap my fingers. When the condition is met, the seal vanishes and the ritual is unleashed at the seal's location. You can perform a magic check and resolve the effect as normal, even if you're unconscious or not present. So, like, you can only have one ritual seal active at a time. So this, for example, the one that I kind of immediately thought of the first time, there's obviously better ones. If you were to take Mirage, you could create a sight-based illusion of yourself, and you can cast a ritual that is you walking across a street, for example. Like, I know it sounds boring, but if you need an alibi for planning like some kind of heist or something like that, while you're there, you can like snap your fingers, it triggers that, and then people will have seen you cross the street at the time when you were heisting, and then obviously like there'll be eyewitnesses to say that you weren't there, you were at the street, and like that's a thing you can do, I guess. You could also tie it with different rituals, so you could make like set up a ritual to create like some kind of like, imagine like a wall of fire barrier. Like, I know you don't do rituals to cause damage, but you could like use it as like a defensive measure to like kind of like block off an area, or maybe like a wall of stone. You can have it so you can set it up ahead of time in like, say like a corridor you know you're going to pass through, and then after you've crossed it you can snap your fingers, then you don't have to spend time ritual casting to get it up, and then people will be stuck basically, unable to chase you. There's things you can do. Like, it's for the more creative people out there who've got time to plan things. You can get a lot of mileage out of this, but you don't necessarily have the time to plan things and for the plan to go right for you to be able to pull this off properly. Whereas Clean Slate is just unbelievably good. Like, you can clear all status effects for 5 MP per person. Yeah, it's too good. And there's no heroic skills in the Techno Fantasy Atlas either. But yeah, this is the Symbolist. I am, as I said, a big fan of the Symbolist. It doesn't quite take my first place, which was the Dancer, which I mentioned last week, but it's pretty close. But I've gone on long enough. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.